Hey, and welcome to another episode of Motors and Meats. Today we're going to be taking off the lower part of this bumper and adding our new tubular Eurowise bumper, so stick around for that. First things first, whenever you're getting ready to do that, is that you have to remove the muffler out from underneath this thing. Rewind to yesterday, and I've already taken care of that. Here it is. It's Michael from the past, and I want to show you what I'm doing today. That is one huge freaking muffler. Oh my goodness. So of course the first thing that you're going to ask is, what does it sound like with the mufflers off? So it sounds like this. Taking the bumper cover off this thing just has a laundry list of things that you have to remove. So the first thing we got to do, open up this and pop off these tail lights. And while we're in there, we'll go ahead and see what else we have to take loose. To take the tail lights off, you've got 4 of these little plastic covers, and right at the very bottom of them there's a little notch. Let me show you on this side so you can see a little better. And you can slide a small screwdriver or a pick underneath that and it will just pop out. Right behind that, you'll see there's an Allen head. That's a 5mm Allen head, so we'll just stick that in there and pop it off. Those are not very tight, so remember that when you're putting it back together. Now I believe this just slides straight out. I think there's a groove that it has to go in, very similar to the way the front headlights work. It can be tricky to be able to pull this out straight. It wants to kind of kick one side to the other. So just be patient with it. If you do decide to pry on this, definitely don't use a screwdriver. You're going to crack that. Get some plastic pry tools. There we go. There's actually not a groove. Instead, it has this little indentation here. Oh, look at that. Mine just disintegrated. And this is the metal piece that plugs into it. Next, you just have this electrical clip that gives power to the tail light. So you just press the indentation there and then wiggle it out. Simple enough. With the tail light removed, you can see that there's a Torx head here and a Torx head here. Both those screws need to come out. And then after that, we go underneath the wheel well liner and underneath the bottom. Next up on each side we have a rubber plug here and again here, and you just want to pull that out, and behind that you'll find another, what do we have, another Torx. Looks like a little bigger on this one. We've moved up to a T30 for this one. I do see a plastic washer that's back in behind there, and this bracket is loose, wanting to fall out. So I'm going to see if I can capture that plastic washer. There we go. The pick came in handy for that. This is what this rubber plug actually plugs into. So that seems to be just about its only purpose. Next up, we move underneath the wheel well. You can see we have one of the T20s here, one a little bit higher here, and then one a little bit higher here. And I believe there's some underneath after that. One of the cool things about working on the Cayenne as opposed to the 911 is you don't really have to jack it up to do much of anything unless you're taking the wheels off. So that makes it super convenient to work on for things like this. Everything's much more in reach as you're working on it. You may want to use a 1/4-inch drive here, especially if you have larger wheels. Speaking of jacking up and taking off the wheels, if you don't have a 1/4-inch drive, due to the back room here, if you have to go with a 3/8 or larger, then you probably will have to take that off. But with this, we don't have to because we can get right in there. Sure enough, there is one right down underneath here. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Straight up from underneath there. So just feel around or lay down if your truck's high enough in the air. Oh, there we go. It wasn't stripped, it just had a lot of mud packed in it from my break-in drive down the muddy logging roads. There we go. Now with all of those screws loose, you can see that this can pull back, but it's not letting go yet. That's because underneath the wheel well liner, there's one more screw. So you just pull back, pull the wheel well liner forward, work your way up to the front, and then right here, I'll try to get a shot. Right here is where that screw goes. And there we go. Now that we have all the wheel well liner screws undone, we get to go underneath, and there's a few more of the T30 Torx screws that are in there. Take a look at this. Upside down. There. Several more once you get on down to this side. And I think after that it just slides off, but we'll see. So like always, if you find out that your fasteners are seized up, always hit them with some penetrating oil. Don't use WD-40 for that. That's water displacement. That's going to actually cause it to rust more later. Use a penetrating oil for that. Now I don't think there's anything left holding this on. I'm going to test that theory, and if I'm wrong, we'll figure out what else is left. But I know it slides straight back. Yeah, that's loose. It's loose. Check out the remnants from my mud ride the other day. I'm gonna blow all this stuff off, but it got everywhere. Let's look underneath here. Some collected on top of the heat shields. You can see there's some kind of styrofoam, I guess, to keep it from making a lot of noise. And this is the slot all the way across here that the top side of the bumper slides into. So, you know, good opportunity to clean up things that weren't able to be cleaned up. Like that wasp nest. Hopefully there's no wasps in there. Oh yeah, long since gone. Horrible. Now speaking of penetrating oil, We definitely want to use some here because we're down to the part that we came here for. We are taking off the factory steel bumper, and on each side you have 4 giant bolts, and they look like they have received some corrosion over time. So I'm going to soak those in penetrating oil for a bit, and then we'll try to take it off. These are a 21 millimeter, so I've got these on my breaker bar. We'll see how that works. Oh, came right loose. That's good. Hopefully we'll get the same good luck on all 8 of these bolts, but I'm going to break them all loose first before I do anything else. Now, so far this has been pretty straightforward, and not that I don't think the rest of it's going to be pretty straightforward as well, but I haven't been able to find any kind of supporting documents on how to actually install this. I haven't seen any videos on YouTube, and the website for Eurowise doesn't yet have any kind of tutorial or instruction guide on that like they do for most of their products. So bookmark this one if you need to know how to put on the tubular rear bumper, because here we go. This would probably be a lot easier with 2 people, but I don't have 2 people, I have myself. So I'm not sure what we're going to need. I've got this transmission jack in place. Excuse the spider webs and dog hair on there, but I'm just going to rest it on that, try to get this lined up, and from there see if I need to remove anything else, like probably this shield right here. I feel like that's probably going to have to come off. Right off the bat, we've hit some obstructions, and it looks like all the heat shielding that we don't need anyway because we don't have mufflers needs to come out. I'm going to set this aside, get the heat shielding out of the way, and then we'll try again. I'm not so certain that the fasteners that hold this on aren't also holding something else on besides this, so we just bring out the 10 snips and we'll cut this off. Do this the manual way. There, all trimmed back now. Not the prettiest work I've ever done, but it's functional. And now we'll see if we can slide this back in here again. I bet we're going to have to take this off. I think this is only meant for attaching that very bottom part of the bumper that we're going to remove anyway. The bumper will fit on here, I believe, without removing this piece of shielding or whatever that is, that mounting piece for the lower portion of the bumper. But it's going to leave it hanging down in the way right here. So whether it needs to come off or not to make it mount, it is going to come off because it'll be ugly and in my way. And with the bumper back out of the way, you can see that it's just 4 little hex nuts that need to come off to get those out of the way. Yep, 10 millimeter. And now the moment of truth. Slides right up to where it's supposed to go. And now I can even raise it up the rest of the way too. Nice. I've got some brand new hardware to put with this that I picked up from Eurowise while I was there. So I think I'll just get one started on each side. And now, time for the big goofy grin on my face. Let's have a quick look at it. So this is going to tell us right where we need to trim off our mud flaps, because there'll be mud flaps if we don't. That's wheel well liner. And our old bumper is going to stop right here. It's going to be from this bolt hole up. So we don't need anything else below that. I'll finish bolting this thing back on real quick, and then we'll see if we can figure out the fitment for the actual bumper cover and what all needs to come off of it. Came out to the grass so I could lay the bumper down without really worrying too much about scratching the paint on here, but I've got it upside down and we're looking at the inside of it, and you can see some of the mud obviously that I wasn't able to get off of here, but you can also see what needs to come off. There is one screw right here that holds that piece on, and then I believe just about everything else is clips all the way around until you get to this other screw right here. So I will pop off these two screws, which are also a T20, and then we will get to separating this thing. I'm not actually seeing any way that I can fit a Torx bit inside of there to get that on, to get that off. As you can see, the bit itself, which is not a wide bit. So what do? I think we just cut that off. The trusty razor blade came to the rescue here. I just scored it on either side of that until I was able to pull it loose, and I know that's going to still be on the bumper, so I'll get the angle grinder and just cut that off, I guess. I probably could have just cut it off with the angle grinder and got it off, but either way. Now the rest of this coming off is pretty straightforward. It just comes loose from these clips. It's just a metal clip that's on the bottom part of the actual bumper, and we're getting rid of the plastic part, so it just slides out, popping loose like that. Maybe yours won't have quite as much mud caked onto it. Or maybe it will, because you went out and had fun with it. Ow. And that's that. Now we'll see if we can figure out how to mount this thing back to the car. I ended up just using the razor knife to go ahead and cut out the little square section on the very end of the thing, right where that screw was, and it's down underneath here. I don't think anybody's ever going to see that. That's probably like the least satisfying part of doing this whole job, was having to actually do something more destructive than what I wanted to. But anyway, we're doing this by trial and error, so let's see if we can put this thing back on. Oops. That just went right in. That's good. I think I've got it. I just need to put the screws back in. Here we go. Get that underneath there. So when you're lining it up, you want to make sure that this part slides underneath there. That's important. And on the inside of this, you have some like 3 different notches that need to line up with clips on the side. And then all along this part, there was the part that needed to be to slide in to the groove underneath here as well. And I think we've got all that done. We just need to start screwing it back on. The job is done. I think it looks awesome. and it definitely gives some more clearance on the back underside. I think it's meant for a steeper approach, so as you were to come over something that causes the back end to dip down, you have a better chance of clearing it without damaging the bodywork. And should you actually hit, you've got a steel tube frame to keep you from damaging the bodywork. I appreciate you guys watching this. I hope you're building one too. And if you are, be sure and subscribe. I've got lots of things coming for this Cayenne. Looking forward to doing this build right all the way, top to bottom, and I'll see you on the next one.